Are you ready for this next eclipse? April 8th, we have the Aries eclipse at 19 degrees Aries. This is a new moon eclipse, and so new beginnings. Woohoo! All right, so this video is for you if you are an air sign, and that would be Gemini, Libra, or Aquarius. So let's talk about Gemini. So if you have Gemini placements or you have Gemini rising especially, this video is for you. Gemini, this eclipse is happening in your 11th house of friendships and long-term goals. So when the eclipse happens in your 11th house, it can have a lot to do with karmic relationships in your life or social groups that maybe you need to let go of, or new social groups come into your life, or a new friend comes into your life. So look at your 11th house sign and see, hey, what is this sign? So what kind of people do I vibe with, right? And each sign has a low expression, a low vibe expression, and a high vibe expression. And so your group, if you look at your 11th house, you can see like the sign. So your 11th house is Aries, right? So your friends are going to be Aries archetype people, like leaders and people that are very spontaneous and like to have a lot of fun. Maybe they're entrepreneurs and stuff. And so look for people in your world that have a high vibe expression of Aries, right? Now, if they have a low vibe expression of Aries, meaning that they are combative, competitive in a negative way, aggressive, dominating, abusive, unaware of themselves and stuff, you're going to probably move on from those relationships, right? Because right now, with the eclipse happening in your house of friendships, this is a time when you need to make changes and let go of people that are low vibe in that archetype. So people that are just not good for you anymore. Also, this can be your audience. So if you're somebody like me that, teaches and puts content out and things, you have your own business or something, then this is going to be about your audience. So this eclipse might change your audience a bit. It could be that maybe you've been focusing on a certain group of people, and now all of a sudden you're realizing, oh my God, I need to actually work with these people over here. So your audience could change. It could be a time when all of a sudden your audience gets bigger, or something happens with your reputation, because the 11th house, again, is about your audience, right? It's very connected to that 10th house of career. So this eclipse is happening also in that 11th house. Think about it in terms of your long-term goals and aspirations and ideals. And so you might be having a crisis in the area of your long-term goals and aspirations. You might be having a big shift on where you want to go in life, on who you want to be in life, on what your political views or your values are. In terms of philosophy and like, oh, you know what, I'm a Republican, but now I'm a Democrat or something like that. I don't know. But anyways, this is definitely a big shift for you if you have these eclipses happening in your 11th house. So remember, if you need to let go of something, it's going to happen now. If you are a Libra rising or you have Libra placements, this is going to affect your relationships, because this is in your 7th house of partnerships and relationships. And so this can be just any close relationships, especially intimate relationships, especially long-term commitments or contracted relationships. So this can be business, and it can be a spouse, right? So anybody that you feel a long-term commitment with or you have a contract with is going to likely be affected here. And so this can be like a new chapter in that area. It can be that the relationship is now going to move on to a new chapter. People get engaged, or some type of surprise, or it could be that you find out your lover is cheating on you, or you go through a breakup. You realize that you are done at that point. All of a sudden, it's like you kind of knew something, and then it's like you go, oh wow, there it is, right? So pay attention. I always tell people to pay attention to gossip during this time. So if you have this eclipse happening in your house of relationships, you need to pay attention if somebody tells you something, or you feel something, or your spirits start telling you something. Like, just pay attention, because this is a time of listening and following your intuition, because when the eclipse happens here, it's about crisis in that area. And so if there's something that needs to come up or come out during this time, it will, in regards to those relationships. It might be that maybe your business partnership is now you know, it's a time where it's going to end, right? And you're going to both move on and have your own businesses or something like that. So again, this can be business or romantic relationships. So yeah, it can be a tough time for people when it goes through the seventh house. It can be a lot of like realizations and things that need to shift and change come up. So again, it can be a new chapter, it can be a breakup, it can even be a new soulmate comes into your life, or an old soulmate comes back into your life with this seventh house eclipse. It's always surprising. Okay, if you have Aquarius rising especially, or Aquarius placements, this is happening in your third house of communication, neighborhoods, siblings. All right, so this can be a crisis with your siblings, your cousins, like you know, family members that are not like in your immediate environment, or just you know, like aunts and uncles and things like that. It can be crisis with your family. Now, this is not usually crisis with your parents necessarily. It's more like siblings and cousins and aunts and uncles and things. But it can also be neighborhood. You could have crisis with like your HOA, if you have one, your homeowners association, or your community. You can have some crisis like in your area with your neighbors. You could also have crisis with your car or your vehicle. You could also have crisis with communication. All right, so it could be you send an email and then you realized, oh my God, I shouldn't have sent that email. Or it could be that you have issues with your technology. Maybe your phone breaks, maybe you got to get a new phone or a computer or something. So anything to do with technology and communication, driving around town, vehicles, your neighborhood. Crisis can happen in any of these areas. It's a real toss-up if you have the third house eclipse, like you do. So the main thing is just be aware of possible crisis with things like your cars and your technology and stuff. And also be aware of possible communication misunderstandings during this time when you have it in your third house. You just want to be aware of these things. But this eclipse is a new beginnings eclipse. It's an eclipse of healing as well with Chiron. And so it could be very good. You know, the crisis and challenges can come up, but then it can help you to go maybe more on your life path in that area. It could be that, you know, something had to happen, a fated thing happen, so that maybe you could have some healing in that area. It can be tough, right? When we go through changes and crisis and challenges, a lot of times we don't really see the good in it until much later, right? So hopefully, you know, the eclipse doesn't treat you too harshly. To keep up to date with what you have going on in your life, follow me at Brandy Joy TV on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube.